Morning. For those of you who are just tuning in, and for those of you who started off on the Ultimate Morning Show from 6 a.m., thank you so much for spending your time with us. Still another public holiday, and everybody, or most people, are at home. I should say, if I say everybody, I'm not at home. My boss is not at home. He's here with me as well. But you are there, in the comfort of your homes, and I hope you've been enjoying this public holiday. All right, so at this time of day, every single day, Monday to Friday, we get to check out what the dailies are saying, and today is no different. If you're wondering, my name is Chooks. Thank you so much. Starting off with the front page of the Authority newspaper, we have the bold story here that reads, First Igbo three-star general Obiako dies at 75. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Children's Day, Tinubu orders rescue of school children, page 2. NDIC realignment to strong deposit insurance funds, page 5. Ohaneze, Southeast Development Commission collaborates on investment growth in Igbo land, page 10. Omoagege dumps APC after losing Senate tickets, on page 4. Presidency fumes over fake Tinubu audio notes to Obi, page 11. Peter Obi calls for greater investment in children's future, page 2. NDC clears all aspirants, sets stage for nationwide primary elections, page 3. 2027, your antecedents not name will get you victory, Olubadan tells politicians, page 7. Moving on now to the Daily Sun. Eid al-Kabir, Tinubu, Abdul Salami, Obi, Wike preach peace, tolerance, unity. President prays in Lagos as Khan calls for compassion, advocates new approach to child school safety amid insecurity concerns, pages 26, 27, and 28. APC tightens grip on NAS, expands majority to 282 in reps as over 150 reps, scores of senators defect in 3 years. That's on page 6 of the Daily Sun. 2027, Atiku woos Amechi Hayatuddin, page 27. And anti-P policies, NLC tells FG. President committed to easy Nigerians' hardship. That's coming from the Vice President Shatima. Starts on front page and continues on pages 6 and 26. Rising rents outpace incomes in Abuja, Lagos as austerity worsens. Page 2 read on the Daily Sun. President assures rescue of Oyo kidnapped victims soon. Page 6. Ezekwesili attacks FG over non-rescue of kidnapped kids, accusing it of insensitivity. Page 6. Moving on now to the Daily Monitor, we have You're Not Forgotten, Abandoned. Tinubu assures abducted Borno Oyo school children. Directs relevant security agencies to sustain, intensify coordinated rescue operations for abducted children, other vulnerable citizens nationwide. Starts on the front page, continues on page 2. 30,000 militants fueling insecurity in Nigeria. That's the US reports there on page 2 of the Daily Monitor. Ex-Deputy Senate President Omar Gege quits APC amid Delta crisis. Page 2. NRC suspends Warri Takpe train service over operational exigencies, safety concerns, page 4. Eid al-Kabir celebration should inspire struggle against hardship. That's from the NLC on page 2. Atiku wins ADC presidential primary, defeats Amechi Hayatuddin. That's above the masthead of the Daily Monitor. Now to the leadership newspaper, we have Khan laments insecurity, abuse of Nigerian children, page 9. Christian clerics join Muslims at Kaduna Eid ground, preach unity, page 7. Nigeria's challenges surmountable, Emir Sanusi on page 4. White Court ruled in favor of DSS operatives in defamation suit against Serap, page 7. Court to deliver judgment in EFCC forfeiture suit against Malami on July 6th, page 7. Petroleum Act, reps, stakeholders, 6% host com fund, starts on front page, continues on page 7. Atiku wins ADC ticket set for fourth presidential run. Former VP receives 1,846,370 votes. Amechi gets 504,117. Hayatuddin scores 177,120 votes. Page 4, read there. Abducted Kaduna Catholic worshippers regain freedom after months in captivity. Page 14. And banditry has no place in Islam, says Tinubu. Page 4. To the Daily Trust. 13 days after Borno, Oyo peoples still in captivity. Starts on the front page, continues on pages 3 and 4. NDC to ratify Obi as 6 parties pick flag bearers. Page 5. Telecom operators, customers spent 9 trillion naira on airtime in 2025. That's a report there on page 16, sorry. And son who allegedly killed father over food, lynched, page 13. And I really cannot imagine how that got to that level. A very sad one indeed. Now moving to the Guardian newspaper. Bring back our students. Nigerians demand end to abductions. Decry empty promises. Page 6. 30,000 armed militants operating across Nigeria account for 1.3 million IDPs. Page 4, read. ADC coalition under strain as Atiku's win reopens zoning debate. Page 6. And presidency preaches tolerance, unity, shared sacrifice during Eid al-Kabir, page 3. And that's the front page of The Guardian. To the Daily Independent, pests, climate, insecurity, fuel, soaring tomato, pepper prices. Starts on the front page, continues on page 29. 2027, Wike's PDP unveils honor as presidential candidate. Pantami defects to PDP, clinches Guba ticket, page 29 of the Daily Independent. All right, now moving on to other dailies this morning. We have the Daily Global. We have, I will not remain a sitting duck. Omagege dumps APC. Primate Ayodele felicitates with Muslims, stresses need for religious tolerance, peace, and harmony. NDIC reiterates commitment to strong deposit insurance funding to enhance financial system stability. Dangote Refinery ends Nigeria's era of fuel import dependence, boosts GDP, FX earnings. FG strengthens coordination, expands social protection efforts to address poverty and humanitarian challenges. FRSC, new Dangote transport safety policy yielding positive results. And Tinubu's daughter threatens protest over Lagos APC primaries. That's a very interesting one there. To the Observer Times, 2027 power tussle. Tinubu's daughter threatens protest over disputed Lagos APC primaries. Alleges Justice Forum hijacks results in Mushin, Agege, and Ojokoro constituencies. Vows to lead market women on protest if stolen mandates are not restored to rightful winners. Page 1 of the Observer's Times. AFDB appoints Keyamo champion of Integrated Aviation Transformation Program for Africa. Page 4. Tinubu orders tighter school security on Children's Day. Page 6. Eid al-Kabir, Matawale urges unity, recommits to national security. Page 4. No regrets over backing Tinubu instead of Kwankwaso, says Jibrin. Starts on front page and continues on page 2. Eid al-Kabir, Chief of Army Staff, felicitates troops, urges sustained sacrifice. Page 3. Daily Independent, 2027 presidential election, protests, division, follow Atiku's election as ADC candidates. That's the major story there from the Daily Independent. Khan urges FG to prioritize schools protection, Nigerian children. Page 7. Farmer leaders demand reforms to end Nigeria's drug import crisis. Page 6. Presidency seeks VDN's prosecution over alleged deep fake Tinubu clip, page 6. Don't lose hope in Nigeria. ADC, PDP tells citizens amid hardship, page 29. We haven't forgotten abducted students, teachers. That's coming from the president. No Nigerian deserves to die because of elections, says Bamidele on page 7. Absolutely agree. Shettima demands maturity, tolerance ahead of 2027. Polls says Tinubu working to reduce economic pressure on Nigerians. FG committed to inclusive quality education for every child. That's coming from the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. And that's the front page of the Daily Independent. Now, finally, to Al Jazeera Nigeria, we have Children's Day. Tinubu assures rescue of abducted school children as governors recommit to strength addressing children's plights. That's on page 9. Ebola outbreak. WHO records 1,000 suspected cases, 220 deaths in DRC. That's on page 20. On page 4, Salah. Lawan urges sacrifice, unity, national rebirth. On page 16, 1.70 million pilgrims perform 2026 Hajj. Saudi Statistics Authority there on page 16. We have Olubadan to politicians. Use my name freely, but your programs will decide on page 5. And that's the front page of Al Jazeera Nigeria. And that's it for the dailies this morning. We took a look at the Authority newspaper, the Daily Sun, the Daily Monitor, Leadership newspaper, Daily Trust, Guardian newspaper, Daily Global, Observer Times, Daily Independent, and Al Jazeera Nigeria. And on the front pages, one story that has resurfaced, made a feature on basically all the papers, is the Children's Day celebration and the Eid al-Kabir celebrations as well. Today is also a public holiday, continuing with the festivities. But very significant one is that I'm happy nobody in this country has forgotten about children. Children that were taken away from their families, that were kidnapped, wherever, any other parts of the country, they've been taken away from their families as well. Nobody has forgotten. I'm happy about that we've not moved on, because, these days when we hear a lot of sad news, in a week, in two, we're moving on from it. We're waiting or anticipating the next statistics of what's going to happen. Again, we see it again, and we're like, it's here. We talk 2-3 days, and then we'll move on. But it's paramount, that we keep putting that pressure on every single institution that should be doing the utmost best to get those kids free and back with their families. Someone was asking me yesterday, I was discussing with someone on my way home from the office, and I was like, we're talking about the situation and how, kids who are very, very young, how do they even navigate such environment, in the bush, wherever it is, they're being taken to whatever age, 4 to whatever. And I'm like, I can't even imagine it, children being in that sort of, situation for over 13 days. Well, I think one of the papers, they mentioned it, over 13 days. So that is, yes, the Daily Trust, 13 days after Borno or your people's still in captivity. So 2 weeks as it is now, away from their families, away from their siblings, their friends. It's just alarming. And how are they even being treated wherever it is they are at the moment? So we need 100% commitment to getting them free, which should be on the top of whoever's agenda, from the president to the vice president, Minister of Defense, Chief of Army Staff. Everybody should be a top priority to have these children free. Celebrating Children's Day yesterday, some parents, couldn't celebrate with their children. I mean, it's just an awful thing to imagine, but really important that we do not just move on from it and just say, oh, at the end of the day, it begins to just, fade away. That this story just begins to fade away from our minds. It's important that we continue to remember, and it's important that we continue to demand that our schools are better protected. We don't want a situation where, oh yes, you send some security personnel to these communities, to these schools, and in a day or two, these schools and communities are left alone. They redeploy or withdraw, these personnel. So we need to do better in terms of information circulation, or as well, better response, quicker response as well. In the past, we've seen individuals from communities that have been affected by terrorism, banditry, complain that security operatives do not get to them on time. So we need a change in this. So this is something that needs to be at the top of the list. Going into what is left for this year, how do we turn this fight against insecurity to one that we are definitely going to win? So that should be very, very, that should be up there on everybody's list. And also the president, putting directives out there, and hopefully, that directive will be followed through and through. Well, away from that, politicking is still on the top of the list on the papers this morning as well. We've seen former Deputy Senate President Omo Agege quit the APC. He lost in the primaries. Moving on, we'll see what party he'll be moving to, the kind of description you want to use. But these are very, should I say, interesting times for those who have lost primaries in their various political parties. What holds for them in the future, for those who feel, they come out and say, they feel like they were cheated, they were deceived and all. And we can see with the president's daughter, putting out some warnings about a protest. The Daily Global carries that story. It says President Bola Tinubu's daughter, the Iyaloja General of Nigeria, on Wednesday threatened a protest over the outcome of the recently held All Progressives Congress primaries in Lagos State, alleging that the process was skewed in favor of the party's Justice Forum bloc. Now, she spoke during the weekly meeting of market leaders and stakeholders at her office in Alausa, particularly claimed that the results published by the Lagos APC for Mushin Federal Constituency 2, Agege Constituency 2, and Ojokoro constituencies were skewed. The Lagos State chapter of the APC had on Monday released the list of candidates who emerged from its House of Representatives and State House of Assembly primaries ahead of the 2027 general elections. Well, I also guess it's easier for her to also meet her father and table her complaints as well. But it just shows you, all of these problems we've had with primaries in different political parties. The ADC as well is one that its unity is being tested at the moment after the presidential primaries and the results declared, announcing Atiku Abubakar as the winner. He's being set to run for the fourth time for the presidency. Now, it's a bit surprising that the talk of zoning is coming up after the primaries that held. I think all of this should have even been trashed before going to the primaries. All parties, I guess, were speaking tough going into the primary. So all of a sudden, one of the papers is carrying zoning being suggested. Now, I mean, if you're very confident before going into the primaries, but shouldn't you just move on with the way it is? I think probably you can contest the results, which the likes of Rotimi Amechi and Hayatuddin have come out to say that they are not in support of the result as well, due to malpractices and whatever in the party. But Atiku Abubakar is trying to reach out to them. We'll see if they are going to sort out all of these issues in the ADC, and if the party is actually going to be a formidable opposition going into the 2027 general elections as well. Well, this morning, most of the papers, resurface on the front pages of the dailies. Even this period as well was to call on the government to make sure that the economy, is being looked at. I know we've heard from the president promising that the dark days will be over very soon, light at the end of the tunnel, but we cannot reiterate it or understate or overstate it enough that we need to see more, in terms of these economic numbers, in terms of growth that we've been hearing about, actually affects the average Nigerian over there. For that story where a son did attack his father because of son who allegedly killed father over food lynch. So it just shows you the kind of level of poverty we currently have in the country. And when you have such a situation, people are probably going to, do very, very over the top weird things, not defending such an action in both ways, the son killing the father and those who lynched the son. Both things are wrong, but it just shows you where we are as a nation in the level of poverty. A lot of people feeling hopeless with their own situation as well. So we need a turnaround in this nation. But before I get to go, congratulations to Crystal Palace. Yesterday they won the UEFA Conference League. They are champions, or one part of the champions of Europe. So for Premier League clubs, they've won 2 over 3 of the continental titles. Aston Villa won the Europa League, Crystal Palace Conference League. Can Arsenal win the Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain and make it 3 over 3? Only time will tell. That'll be very interesting as well. But congratulations to them. I don't know if we have Crystal Palace fans in the country though, but but I do like them. They play some pretty good football. A goal from Mateta was enough in that one against Rayo Vallecano. All right, there's so much for you to come on this dial. 8:30 Fact File will be coming through from our network studios. 9 a.m. political platform, and you can always watch that live on our YouTube page at Raypa Abuja. My name is Chooks. Good morning.